Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Everybody says they want greatness. Everybody says they want success. Everybody says they want to be that person. Until it's time to pay the price. Until it's time to wake up early when nobody is watching. Until it's time to stay disciplined when motivation is gone. Until it's time to stand alone while the crowd walks the easier road. Few people can handle that. Very few. See, strength isn't loud. Real strength doesn't announce itself on social media. It shows up quietly, consistently, when excuses would be easier and quitting would feel justified. Most people can handle comfort. Most people can handle applause. But pressure, responsibility, sacrifice, that's a different conversation. That's where the room gets empty. Life will test you. Not to destroy you, but to reveal you. To show you whether you're built for convenience or commitment. Because when things get heavy, when the weight gets real, when nobody is clapping for you anymore, that's when the truth shows up. And the truth is this: few people can carry that weight without folding. Few people can stay focused when distractions are everywhere. Few people can keep their character intact when shortcuts are available. So if you've ever felt like the road you're on is lonely, if you've ever wondered why it feels harder for you than for others, maybe that's not a curse. Maybe that's confirmation. Maybe you're being shaped for something most people aren't strong enough to hold. Pressure has a way of stripping life down to the truth. It doesn't create character, it uncovers it. When everything is calm, when options are many and expectations are low, almost anyone can appear confident, disciplined, even strong. But pressure removes the mask. It tightens the environment, limits choices, increases stakes, and suddenly, who you really are steps forward without asking permission. That is why pressure feels so uncomfortable for most people, because it forces an honest conversation with the self, one that can't be avoided, edited, or postponed. Some people believe pressure is the enemy, something to escape or blame. They say pressure breaks people, ruins potential, destroys dreams. But that's only true for those who were already fractured on the inside. Pressure doesn't insert fear, laziness, or weakness into a person. It simply magnifies what already lies there. When responsibility increases, when time runs out, when consequences become real, the inner habits, values, and discipline come to the surface. The person who trained in private responds with clarity. The person who avoided preparation responds with panic. Look closely and you'll see this pattern everywhere. Two people face the same obstacle, the same loss, the same deadline, the same criticism. One grows sharper, calmer, more focused. The other grows bitter, reactive, and defensive. The difference isn't intelligence, luck, or background. The difference is what they built before the pressure arrived. Pressure doesn't ask for your permission, and it doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It simply shows up and turns the lights on. Pressure exposes priorities. When everything is on the line, what you choose to protect tells the real story. Some protect their ego, making excuses and shifting blame. Some protect their comfort, backing away the moment things become difficult. Others protect their integrity, even when it costs them something. Under pressure, talk becomes irrelevant. Promises lose value. Only actions speak, and they speak loudly. That's why pressure is such a powerful teacher. It gives feedback instantly and honestly. There is also a quiet confidence that lives inside people who understand pressure. They don't fear it because they've already met themselves there. They've been uncomfortable before. They've failed before. They've been doubted before. So when pressure arrives, it doesn't feel like a stranger. It feels familiar. They know that pressure is not a signal to retreat, but a signal to focus, to simplify, to execute what they've practiced when nobody was watching. Pressure also reveals discipline. Motivation disappears the moment things get hard, but discipline stays. Under pressure, the disciplined person doesn't rise to the occasion. They fall back on their standards. They don't search for inspiration, they rely on structure. Their habits carry them when emotions can't. That's why pressure rewards those who did the boring work early, who chose consistency over excitement, who showed up even when it didn't feel meaningful at the time. What makes pressure so uncomfortable is that it removes excuses. You can no longer blame circumstances when the moment demands a decision. You can no longer hide behind potential when execution is required. Pressure asks one question, and it asks it loudly: who are you when it matters? Not who you say you are, not who you plan to become. Who you are right now. And that question has a way of making people uneasy, because deep down, everyone knows the answer. For those willing to face it, pressure becomes a privilege. It means you've been entrusted with something that matters. It means the moment is big enough to require your full attention. Pressure is proof that you are in the arena, not watching from the stands. Most people live their entire lives avoiding pressure, choosing safety over growth, comfort over challenge. They never get to see what they're capable of because they never allow the conditions that would reveal it. Pressure doesn't just reveal strength, it reveals purpose. When the weight is heavy, you find out why you're doing what you're doing. Weak reasons collapse quickly. Shallow goals fade under stress. But a deep sense of purpose holds steady. It anchors you when the outcome is uncertain. It keeps you moving when progress is slow. Pressure clarifies what truly matters by forcing you to let go of what doesn't. There is no shortcut around pressure if you want a meaningful life. Avoiding it only delays the truth. Embracing it accelerates growth. Every level of responsibility brings a new level of pressure, and every level of pressure demands a stronger version of you. The people who understand this don't ask for an easier life. They work to become stronger individuals. They don't pray for pressure to disappear. They prepare themselves to carry it. In the end, pressure is honest. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your intentions or your excuses. It simply reveals what you have built within yourself over time. And once that truth is revealed, you can never unsee it. Most people say they want success, but what they truly want is comfort with a nice title attached to it. They want the rewards without the weight, the recognition without the responsibility, the position without the pressure. Comfort feels safe. It feels familiar. It allows you to stay in control without being tested. Responsibility, on the other hand, demands something from you every single day. It asks for consistency, accountability, and sacrifice. And that is where many people quietly step back. Comfort doesn't challenge who you are. It confirms who you already are. It lets habits go unchecked and standards stay low. Responsibility exposes those habits and standards immediately. When you are responsible for results, for people, for outcomes that matter, excuses lose their power. You can no longer hide behind circumstances or wait for someone else to fix things. Responsibility puts your name on the line, and that alone is enough to scare many people away. There is a reason why crowds gather around comfort, but thin out around responsibility. Comfort promises ease. Responsibility promises weight. Comfort says relax, you've done enough. Responsibility says show up again, even when you're tired, even when nobody notices, even when the results aren't immediate. That kind of demand is not appealing to most people because it forces them to grow faster than they planned to. Responsibility also brings visibility. When you carry responsibility, your decisions matter, your mistakes are seen, your choices affect others. Comfort allows anonymity. Responsibility removes it. Many people avoid responsibility not because they are incapable, but because they are afraid of being exposed. Afraid that others will see their weaknesses, their uncertainty, their lack of preparation. Comfort keeps those things hidden. Responsibility shines a light on them. Another uncomfortable truth is that responsibility often comes without applause. The work is heavy, the hours are long, and the credit is delayed or sometimes never given at all. Comfort, on the other hand, often comes with instant gratification. Less risk, fewer expectations, and more immediate pleasure. Most people are trained to chase what feels good now rather than what builds something meaningful later. Responsibility requires a long-term mindset, and that kind of patience is rare. Those who choose responsibility understand something others don't. They know that comfort shrinks you over time. It slowly dulls your edge. It makes average feel acceptable and potential feel optional. Responsibility, while uncomfortable, expands you. It stretches your capacity. It forces you to develop skills you didn't know you needed. It teaches you how to lead yourself before leading others. There is also a silent discipline that responsibility demands. You don't get to feel like it every day. You don't get to wait for motivation. You act because the role requires it, because people are counting on you, because walking away would cost more than staying committed. Comfort allows emotions to lead. Responsibility requires values to lead. Many people confuse peace with comfort, but they are not the same. Comfort avoids tension. Peace comes from knowing you are carrying your weight. Responsibility brings a deep, quiet confidence that comfort never can. It comes from knowing that when things are difficult, you don't run. When pressure rises, you don't disappear. You stay present and engaged. In the end, the world doesn't move forward because of comfortable people. It moves forward because of responsible ones. Because of those willing to carry more than their share, to stand in the gap, to be counted on when things go wrong. Comfort may feel good in the moment, but responsibility builds a life that actually means something. Discipline is rarely celebrated because it is quiet, repetitive, and often invisible. Motivation gets the attention because it feels powerful and exciting, but motivation is emotional, and emotions change. Discipline is not interested in how you feel. It is built on decision, structure, and commitment. That is why discipline, not motivation, is what separates the rare from the average. The average person waits to feel ready. The rare individual moves because they decided long ago who they were going to be. Motivation is easy when the goal is new and the vision is fresh. Anyone can feel inspired at the beginning. Discipline is what shows up after the excitement fades, after progress slows, after doubt creeps in. When the applause disappears and the results are not immediate, motivation usually walks out the door. Discipline stays. It keeps the standard intact even when the desire is gone. That consistency compounds over time, creating distance between those who wish and those who become. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it is punishment or restriction, something that steals freedom. In reality, discipline creates freedom. It removes chaos. It reduces decision fatigue. It builds trust with yourself. When you are disciplined, you no longer negotiate with your impulses. You already know what you are going to do, and that clarity saves energy. The average person spends their days arguing with themselves. The disciplined person executes. Discipline also shapes identity. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you strengthen your self-respect. That internal trust is powerful. It makes you reliable to yourself, and reliability is rare. Many people break promises to themselves daily and then wonder why their confidence is weak. Discipline repairs that. It teaches you that you can be counted on, especially when things get hard. There is a loneliness that comes with discipline. It requires saying no when others say yes. It requires leaving early, waking up earlier, staying focused while others are distracted. The average person avoids this loneliness by blending in. Discipline forces separation, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. You cannot live an uncommon life with common habits. That separation is uncomfortable, but it is also where growth accelerates. Discipline doesn't guarantee success, but the absence of it guarantees regret. Talent without discipline fades. Intelligence without discipline stalls. Dreams without discipline remain conversations. The rare understand this, which is why they obsess over habits more than outcomes. They focus on what they can control daily instead of chasing distant rewards. Discipline turns effort into a system, and systems outlast moods. When pressure hits, discipline becomes your anchor. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on what you've trained. In critical moments, you won't have time to get motivated. You will only have time to act. Discipline ensures that your actions are already aligned with your standards. That is why disciplined people appear calm under pressure. They are not guessing. They are executing something familiar. The average person relies on willpower, which is limited and fragile. Discipline removes the need for willpower by making the right action automatic. It turns effort into routine. Over time, what once felt heavy becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes expected. That gradual shift is how ordinary people become extraordinary without needing to announce it. Discipline also protects you from yourself. It keeps emotions from hijacking decisions. It prevents short-term comfort from stealing long-term progress. It reminds you that who you become matters more than how you feel today. The rare understand that discipline is not about being perfect, but about being consistent enough to stay in the game. In the end, motivation may start the journey, but discipline determines how far you go. It is the quiet force behind every lasting achievement, the unseen structure holding everything together, and the line that separates those who talk about potential from those who actually live it. Loneliness is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it is a signal that you are growing in a direction others are not willing to follow. When you choose a path that demands more from you, the crowd naturally thins out. Fewer invitations come. Fewer people understand your choices. The silence gets louder, and for many, that silence feels unbearable. That is why most people abandon their path before it has a chance to take shape. Sacrifice is the currency of progress. Yet it is rarely spoken about honestly. People talk about success as if it appears suddenly, but they rarely mention what had to be given up along the way. Time with friends, comfort, rest, even pieces of identity must sometimes be released. Sacrifice asks you to trade who you are now for who you could become. That trade is uncomfortable, and it feels especially heavy when no one is there to applaud it. Loneliness tests your motives. When no one is watching, when no one is encouraging you, when no one seems to care whether you continue or quit, you find out why you started. Shallow reasons fade quickly in isolation. Only a deep commitment survives being alone. That is why loneliness is not meant to break you. It is meant to refine you. It removes external validation and forces you to build internal conviction. There is also a discipline that loneliness teaches. Without constant noise, you hear your own thoughts more clearly. You confront doubts you once drowned out with distractions. You are forced to sit with uncertainty rather than run from it. This is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. Growth requires space, and space often feels like emptiness before it feels like clarity. Sacrifice also reveals priorities. You cannot keep everything and move forward. Something always has to be left behind. The comfort of familiar routines, the approval of others, the safety of staying small all compete for your attention. Sacrifice forces a decision. It asks what matters more, ease of now or the potential of later. Many choose now, not because it is better, but because it is easier. Loneliness builds a quiet strength. When you learn to stand without constant reassurance, you become less dependent on circumstances. You stop needing permission to continue. You stop looking for signs that you are on the right path. You begin to trust your preparation and your values. That independence is powerful, but it cannot be developed in a crowd. The people who eventually carry great responsibility often walk through long seasons of isolation first. They are being prepared to lead without needing constant agreement, to make decisions without immediate support, to stay steady when opinions shift. Loneliness is not a punishment, it is training. It teaches you how to carry weight without leaning on applause. Sacrifice also sharpens focus. When distractions fall away, what remains becomes clearer. Energy stops leaking into things that don't matter. Effort becomes intentional. Every action feels more purposeful because the cost of continuing is already high. This focus is one of the hidden advantages of sacrifice. But it only appears after you accept what you have given up. Most people run from loneliness because they mistake it for failure. They believe being alone means being forgotten or left behind. In reality, it often means being set apart, not because you are better, but because the path you are on requires a different rhythm, a different level of commitment, a different tolerance for discomfort. Loneliness and sacrifice do not last forever, but their impact does. They shape your character in ways comfort never could. They teach resilience, patience, and self-trust. Those lessons stay with you long after the season ends, long after the silence fades, long after others reappear, because you learned how to stand when you had no one to lean on. Growth rarely announces itself in comfortable moments. It hides in places most people avoid, in situations that feel inconvenient, uncomfortable, and demanding. What people run from is often not pain itself, but the uncertainty that comes with it. Discomfort removes guarantees. It takes away the illusion of control. That is why many choose familiarity over progress, even when familiarity keeps them stuck. Fear is a powerful deterrent. It convinces people that staying the same is safer than risking change. Yet safety is often the greatest threat to growth. When you avoid challenges, you also avoid the lessons attached to them. You avoid discovering how adaptable, resilient, and capable you actually are. Growth demands exposure to difficulty because difficulty forces adaptation. Without resistance, strength never develops. Discomfort also confronts identity. When you step into unfamiliar territory, you can no longer rely on who you used to be. Old habits fail. Old excuses stop working. This can feel like losing yourself, but it is actually the beginning of becoming someone new. Many retreat at this stage because the transition feels disorienting. They mistake the shedding of old patterns for failure when it is actually progress. There is also a humility required in growth. Discomfort reminds you that you do not know everything. It puts you back in the position of learning, of being corrected, of starting again. Pride resists this. Ego prefers environments where competence is guaranteed. Growth requires environments where competence must be earned. That earning process is uncomfortable, and that is precisely why it works. What most people run from is the work that cannot be seen. The awkward early stages where effort outweighs results. The moments where you try and fail publicly or quietly. The discipline of repetition without recognition. These phases bruise the ego, but they strengthen the foundation. Growth is built in these unseen spaces, not in moments of applause. Discomfort also sharpens awareness. When things are easy, attention drifts. When things are difficult, focus intensifies. You become present. You listen more closely. You think more clearly. Challenge pulls you into the moment and demands your best. That level of engagement is where learning accelerates and where growth takes root. There is a cost to avoiding discomfort that often goes unnoticed. Over time, avoidance becomes a habit. Challenges feel heavier than they actually are because the capacity to face them has not been exercised. Confidence erodes not from failure, but from never trying. The longer you run, the harder it feels to turn around and face what you've been avoiding. Those who grow understand that discomfort is temporary, but the expansion it creates is permanent. Each challenge faced increases tolerance for the next. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Growth compounds quietly through repeated exposure to difficulty. Discomfort also teaches honesty. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront your limitations. This confrontation is not meant to discourage, but to direct. It shows you where to improve, where to invest effort, where to stop pretending. Comfort hides these truths. Discomfort reveals them. Most people wait for the right time to grow, a moment when conditions feel supportive and safe. That moment rarely comes. Growth happens when you move forward despite uncertainty, when you act without full confidence, when you choose effort over ease. What you run from today often holds the exact lesson you need to move forward. In the end, growth is not found in avoiding discomfort, but in developing a relationship with it, seeing it not as an enemy, but as a signal, a sign that you are stepping beyond what you know and into what you are capable of becoming.